and the moving around the populations and orphan trains, etc., and how they muddled up the history so much. Because I believe I've looked into a lot of American history, and there's a lot to suggest that some of their presidents were black, and a lot of the initial residents there were black as well, and not necessarily the Native Americans, as we're led to believe.
Right. Yeah. So it literally does tie into the this idea of orphan trains and stuff, because, as I said, 1755. Right. There's only a very small number of white people in the world. Right. Less than 100 years later, we got this phenomenon of babies in incubators. Right, so it was introduced in the 1893 Chicago World Fair. Right, so they had this massive building called the Baby Incubator Building, and it was rows of thousands of babies in incubators. And the public could come in and look at them and even buy some if they wanted. Right. So there was no word of where these babies came from, where the mothers. There was no word about the mothers. It turns out that 2 years before, a guy called Hans Dreich came up with cloning. He invented cloning back in 1891. Right? So put two and two together. Right? Somebody invents cloning, and all of a sudden, thousands and thousands of babies appear. Yeah. So then 6 years later, these babies become the orphans. So again, in the early 1900s, there were orphans everywhere, not just in America, but in the UK as well, in London. There was, Oliver Twist, and also in Russia, there was all these orphans as well. And these orphans were then spread around the whole world. So from the UK, these orphans went to Australia, to Canada, to all the Commonwealth countries. In America, they went all across America to fill up the towns that were there. And same in Europe. They got spread out through Europe. So the thing is, there were no black orphans, not a single one. Right? So
yeah. That's like from every picture I've ever seen, I've never seen a black orphan in the orphan train photos. Or no, you're quite right.
So they went from a very small number of white people to millions in less than 100 years, right? And the thing about if they're clones, well, I think it's relatively easy to clone a body, but what they can't clone is the driver, that self-conscious, self-aware being that can talk to itself. Yeah. So it turns out that there's a massive population of people who don't have an inner monologue. So they don't have a voice. Yeah, they don't have that voice you can have a chat to. So if you're explaining something to me, I'd be going like, that's interesting. Oh, I wonder if that connects to that video I watched last week. Oh, I got to remember to ask him this question because maybe this connects to that and that. So as you're explaining stuff to me, in my head, I'm having that conversation, analyzing it and coming up with my own interpretation. Yeah. If you don't have that voice in your head, how do you do that?
That explains so much. That would explain why there's such a large percentage of the population, the whole NPC. It's just an inability to actually do it. That's
well, they couple that with the fact that at exactly the same time as these orphans appeared, the public school system was introduced. So what does school do? It teaches you to obey authority. So all these orphans went straight into these new public schools. They were indoctrinated with obey authority. So that was the base program. And now they can't assimilate any new concepts or information. So they just go through life obeying authority.
Well, it makes so much sense. You've actually fractured my mind here in about